Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is all my video game pickups for the month of January 2018. Not a whole lot of stuff here, but I'll level with you. It's because this was kind of a crazy month, man. I was almost never here. In 2017, I calculated that I spent about 6 months not at home. In 2016, I calculated I spent about 5 months not at home. I think 2018, we're gonna go for 7 months not at home because we're already off to a hell of a start. This month alone, I was in Texas twice. I was in Germany, I was in Portugal, and I was in New York City, as well as Wisconsin. So it's kind of all over the place for different reasons, always events, conventions, that kind of stuff. So I really didn't pick much stuff up. The stuff I picked up was kind of as a result of going to those places. In fact, it literally was in almost every instance, except for some packages we have here at the end that we'll get to. But I'll talk about the stuff I got. So as aforementioned, I went to Texas. I went to Austin and I went to San Antonio. Now San Antonio, I went to Austin, and in the same week, I then went back to Texas and went to San Antonio. Keep in mind, I live in Chicago. So when I was at San Antonio, I was there for PAX South. I had been invited down to basically attend meetings more than the actual convention. I was at the convention, but frankly, I was there very briefly. I did a little bit of the Saturday show, a little bit of the Friday show, none of the Sunday show, and I just kind of did the rounds, talked to some of the people that I know, but most of the time I was in San Antonio, I really just went to meetings. So I didn't have much time at the actual convention, but it was nice to get to see some of the people I'm familiar with that I've met at other cons, as well as just doing the rounds and seeing what it's like, because I'd never been to PAX South. I'd been to PAX Prime. I've been to it 3 times in Seattle. PAX South is much smaller. It's more of a tabletop type of convention. The video game scene in there isn't very big. The biggest company there was Capcom, and really they were just kind of hawking their shit, you know, like as they usually do. But yeah, they were the biggest ones. None of the other big guys were there. So that said, I wanted the convention. I had a good time, don't get me wrong. And they had people selling games, but I didn't buy any. The only thing I walked away with was really 2 things. One, first thing that happened to me is I got recognized by the people who are running the Retropalooza convention. A lot of you retro gamers, I'm sure, are aware of it. It's a Texas-based convention. I believe it moves around from Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. And apparently, this is what I was told, so I hope it's true, otherwise I'm making an ass of myself, but here's what I was told. Apparently last year, they attempted to get me as a guest of the convention. The person who wanted me, I guess the person who was in control of it, referred to me as the Dreamcast guy. Makes sense, I do a lot of Dreamcast videos. So the person who was responsible for booking this stuff contacted literally the Dreamcast guy, who is not me, who ended up being a guest of that convention, which is funny. I actually met him later. We've talked for many years. He's actually one of the inspirations for my channel, believe it or not. And you know, I chatted with him at a party by Machinima for a while. Really good dude. It was fun meeting up with that dude finally and hanging out, but it was funny that kind of came full circle. But anyway, so the convention now claims that this year in San Antonio that they want me to be a guest. Now, it is not official. It's possible I will be there. It's possible I won't be there. I would love to go. It's really kind of up to them if they actually officially reach out. So possibility I will be in San Antonio, Texas in April. So I'll let you know if that actually becomes official. That said, I walked around the convention floor and I actually, like I said, met up with a few people I'd met, some I hadn't met but I knew. That's where our first game comes in. This is a game called Logjammers. This is by Megacat Studios. I did a video on some of their games last year. Expedition for the NES, as well as Coffee Crisis for the Sega Genesis. They're basically like an indie company that makes games for retro consoles, most notably NES and Genesis. And they made a few different weird ones. They had this one called Logjammers that was playable, and they were cool enough to just hand me a copy because they knew who I was, because they had made, you know, they knew the video existed. So I want to thank them for that. This game is kind of like, we played it for a while, it's kind of like a violent NES version of air hockey. You know, you throw a little dart type of thing off of a wall and try to score a goal behind you, that's the basic premise of the gameplay. It was fun. So thank you very much to Megacat Studios for hooking me up with a copy of Logjammers. That was the only thing I picked up in Texas. Literally the day after I got back from Texas, the next day I had to go out to Germany for an event. So what I got to do was kind of control my dates in Germany. I didn't really get to spend any time in Germany other than the event, but what it did allow me to do is I could pick which days, or basically I couldn't pick the day I had to go there, but I could pick the day I could come back because they didn't have to care about hotel expenses, because what I wanted to do was in that gap of time after my meeting was over, I wanted to bounce out to Portugal, which is where my girlfriend lives, and I wanted to spend some time with her because I figured once I'm already in Europe, I'll get a much cheaper flight, you know, because I'm not paying for the flight to Germany. I would just have to pay for the flight from Germany to Portugal, which is much, much cheaper. So that's exactly what I did. And then, of course, after I left Portugal, I went back to Germany, and then the free flight back from Germany. You get it? Cool. So I didn't really do anything in Germany other than my meeting. But when I was in Portugal, hanging out with my girlfriend, we went to a few different stores and stuff. Now, Portugal's not really known for its video game scene. The irony is I came away with, you know, some cool stuff. The first store that I hit up was funny. I was in an area called Vila Nova de Gaia, which is just south of Porto. I think it's south of Porto, which is like the second biggest city in Portugal. Last time I was in Portugal, which was 4 years ago, that the country did not have a lot of the basics of an American's taste, meaning they didn't have Starbucks. You know what I mean? Like there was one Starbucks in Portugal and it was in the Lisbon airport. Now they have 8, which is, believe it or not, is obviously a huge improvement. 6 of them are in Lisbon, one's in Porto, one's in Vila Nova de Gaia, which is where I was. Just so happens I was right fucking by the only Starbucks. And you know, they built a Burger King there. Like it really came along. I know that sounds like small, but trust me when I say that's fucking awesome. Anyway, so the area I was in, last time I was there 4 years ago, there was this store called Porto Alternativo. I've done a video on it, granted it's 4 years old, but it's the same store, it's the same location. And I went back in, you know, like hoping to find more stuff, and they fucking had stuff. They had possibly the best retro selection in northern Portugal, at least that I'm aware of. And so a lot of PlayStation 2 and stuff like that, but it was cool to see. So I picked up some PS2 stuff. Now keep in mind, if you're unfamiliar with European game hunting, no offense to Europeans, PlayStation 2 in Europe is hot garbage for the most part. Not the stuff, not all the quality games you guys already know. I'm talking about the exclusive content, stuff that was only released in Europe. Part of the reason is that at one point during the PlayStation 2's lifespan, I think it was like in 2009 or 2012, something like that, they had to drop, Sony was forced to, by whatever reasons, drop a lot of quality control standards. In other words, at that point in time, anybody who wanted to make a video game for the PS2 could do it. Anybody. Anybody who felt like paying Sony the licensing fee to just have them physically print the discs and make the cases, they could do it. So as a result, there's tons of exclusive garbage on the PS2 in Europe that would never meet quality control standards in North America or Japan. Those are kind of fun to collect because of how stupid and shitty they are. That's really, to be honest with you, I've done many videos on showing some of those and how they make me laugh. And I don't know, the most infamous one is Animal Soccer World.
Long time no see. What are you doing today?
I don't know yet.
We can visit some friends.
Sounds good. I like visiting friends very much.
Which is actually a game I'd picked up in Portugal years before, all 4 years ago, in this exact same store. So I wanted to see if I could find any treasure. I got some stuff, but nothing to like Animal Soccer World level. What I got was a game called Don Quixote, obviously based on Don Quixote. I thought that was, I bought it based on the name. I thought that was very clever, and they deserved to get paid for that one. Now I guess what the deal with, I had to Google this because I'd never heard of it. This is an animated movie. This is the game of an animated film, which obviously those always work out. Those are always great games. This movie, I believe, is an Italian film. I don't think it was released in the States ever. Although, funny enough, the back is in English. Enjoy the original adventure game hand in hand with its main characters with your PlayStation 2. Find out the details of Don Quixote. I'm not reading it wrong. Don Quixote. It's a play on words. With Sancho Ruccio, and Don Quixote himself, and discover sheer enjoyment all the way. Ruccio or Ruscio, I'm sorry, that one I legit don't know. I'm an ignorant Philistine, I don't know these things. But anyway, so yeah, it's just based on the game. I think it was did I say Italian? I think I meant Spanish. Spanish film. But yeah, so I don't imagine there's much in the way of this. It kind of caught my attention because the back in particular, these two characters, all I looked at it and I went, donkey? I just thought, that's Shrek. That's like human Shrek and like white donkey. I don't know, that made me laugh. So I picked it up on that basis. The other game I got was one called Girl Zone by the infamous Phoenix. If you see Phoenix on the case, you're only gonna see that on a European game. It's usually PS1 or most notably PS2. That is the seal of quality of shit. The stamp of failure, basically, is what that is. That company has produced unbelievable amounts of garbage for the PlayStation 2. Every single one of these games is terrible. It's just a different kind of terrible each time. This was in the €1 bin. It was complete, and the name just made me laugh, and then the back just looks like a whole series of garbage mini games. So for like €1, it's worth a chuckle. That's really all it is. So happy to get that, quote unquote. Now, they actually had some stuff I actually needed. As I've mentioned before many times, I would really like to get a full original Xbox set. Now, in Europe, they had something like 70 exclusives. I have most of them at this point. And to be honest, I wasn't expecting to find any on this trip. I ended up finding 2, which was very surprising. I'm all the way down, I was all the way down to like 18. Now I think I'm down to like 16 because of this. I'd have to double check on that. But the first one up was Slam Tennis, which, believe it or not, I was actually really happy to find, because I've only ever seen this once before, and that was in Paris, but it was incomplete. I'm sure you can find it online. I don't make the case that you can't, but whenever I've looked for it, I never really see it, because it's such a generic series of words that usually what comes up is a bunch of like Xbox 360 tennis games, not this game in particular. And they had it in like the €2 bin, so happy to get the complete copy off the list for €2. Fuck yeah, happy to do it. Especially find it locally, I like that. And then the other thing I found was not at Porto Alternativo, it was down the street. They had actually built a CEX. CEX is a big used game and movie store in Europe. There's a couple of them on the east coast of the US. I know Boston has some, but yeah, they're expanding more and more in Europe, and I wasn't expecting to find one. And then when I went inside, I most certainly wasn't expecting to find any original Xbox games, but they had a couple. Very pitiful selection, so much so that I looked at it at first and then just walked away. And then I just double checked my list and I realized, holy shit, there's one I need. Because this is one that I would have easily passed over assuming I had, which was World Championship Snooker 2003. Obviously an amazing title, we all grew up with it. That's why I thought I had it, of course. I mean, we all had it. Who didn't fucking have World Championship Snooker 2003? Apparently I didn't, so I had forgotten that. So when I double checked, I'm glad I double checked my list on that one, because it just seemed like something I would have had, but I didn't. So yeah, again, this is like €2, good to get off the list. So yeah, happy to get 2 OG Xbox games off the set, which is great. I don't remember the exact number, but again, I think I'm down to 16. Of European exclusives. Still got a whole long way to go in North America. Now, the other thing I went to, this was fucking nuts. I went to a store called Fnac or FNAC. It's like an electronics store, I think like Best Buy. Apparently it's French in origin, but they exist in Portugal. So I just went in, just looking around at shit, looking at, the European exclusive Xbox One, PS4, Switch, that kind of thing. So there's 2 parts to this story. One, I went to the Switch section just to see what European exclusives existed at the time. And the cool thing is they actually had a few. They had a few and the best part is because Portugal is not really considered one of the primary sections for video games in Europe. So a lot of the time, the second language of Portugal, I guess by default, is English. So a lot of the games that they get are just the UK versions. And then they're printed and sent there instead. So it's kind of nice, there's no markup on it, but they're all in English. And as an ignorant American who only speaks English, that's great for me. So I picked up a few. Now, all of these at the time I make this video are exclusive to Europe, but that could change. Now, I wish I had had more time in Germany, because there are Switch games that are exclusive to Germany and Austria right now, just those 2 countries. So I don't have those because I didn't get a chance to shop for them, but these are the other ones I managed to pick up. Super Putty Squad, which I know is on PS4 here, but apparently there is a physical Switch edition in Europe, so that's cool. Snow Moto Racing Freedom. Aqua Moto Racing Utopia. And Let's Sing 2008. Now this thing's kind of cool because even though the game, I'm sure, not my thing, it comes with a microphone. for the Switch. That's kind of cool, although I'm sure it's just USB based. What's interesting about this one actually is that this also came out on the original Wii. Let's Sing 2018. Currently, the last Wii game. Now, I didn't pick it up because I kind of think that Just Dance 2019 is going to end up on the Wii, so I didn't need a region-locked game. So that's interesting for one reason right there, that it could be the last Wii game. But the other reason it's interesting is there's no Wii U version. They intentionally skipped over that one just to give it a Switch and Wii version. I can't think of any other game that ever did that, where there was 3 generations of a platform. Like imagine if a game, here we got PlayStation 2 game, right? Imagine if a game came out on PS2 and PS4, but there was no PS3 version. Or a game came out on PS1 and PS3, but there was no PS2 version. It's just kind of strange. But that's the case that happened here. There's a Wii version and there's a Switch version, but no Wii U version. So I don't know, whatever. I got the Switch version just because I like the idea of having a Switch version. If it ends up being the last Wii game, then I'll pick it up there as well, just because that's kind of cool. But yeah, so that's it for the pickups from there. But the other thing that happened at FNAC is the other story that's kind of fascinating. So I'm in that store, and it has a pre-order section. Now, I hadn't seen a pre-order section like this in some time, at least in the States, where they actually have like replica artwork, like temporary artwork, so you can like bring the case up to the counter and say, I want to pre-order this game, right? You understand the concept? I'm sure a lot of us remember that, especially us older guys. So they had one for Shenmue 3 for PS4 and PC. It just covered both. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. Like it wasn't like it wasn't actually a big deal. I mean, it was literally just the Kickstarter artwork for the game with the store's logo on it, clearly printed downstairs on the printer. The guy put it in a case and just brought it up there and put it on the shelf. But I saw it and it like melted my heart because as a huge Shenmue fan, I was like, that's fucking awesome to see that in a store. So I got a photo with it. And I posted it around on like the Shenmue groups and all that stuff, not just thinking, hey guys, isn't this cool? They blew up. That picture blew up. Corey Marshall, who was the voice of Ryo Hazuki in the actual game, commented on. He shared the picture out, and even the actual Shenmue campaign commented on it, saying like, "Thanks for bringing it to our attention." Because then I kind of realized, I bet the store is not supposed to be taking pre-orders on this. Oops. But either way, it was just cool to see that, to be the person who found that in a sense. Because there was a bunch of people, even in Portugal, even in fucking Villanova de Gaia in Porto, who had not seen that shit. So it was just fucking awesome to find that. That was really, really cool. So then I came back from that and I was home for like 2 days. And I did a live stream in there that you guys might have seen, hopefully. And then the next day after that, I went out to New York City for a few days. Now, New York City, ironically, I didn't buy anything. But I did go to Videogames New York, which is cool. I've been there before. That time I was wandering around and I saw they're like the best supplier that I've ever seen of Dreamcast independent physical releases. In fact, they publish a lot of them now too through Josh Prod. They have like the exclusive North American release benefits, like at least in a brick and mortar store. So I tweeted that I was in there and I showed a picture of the games and I just said like, oh, because they had Zia and the Goddess of Magic, which is a Dreamcast game made by Orion, where I'm an NPC. So I just tweeted out like, oh, that's cool, I'm in that game. And the store tweeted back at me saying like, oh, you should sign it, not realizing I was still in the store. So I met up with the owner and I was like, yeah, dude, I'm here, I could sign it. So I actually signed a copy of the game and I don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe they'll throw it away, that's fine, if they wanna throw it away. But yeah, so I signed a copy of the game, even though I did not make it, I had nothing to do with it, I just happened to be an NPC in it. So it'll presumably, they said they might put it in like a shelf back there that's like shows like autograph stuff, which would be very flattering, but totally unnecessary. But yeah, so New York was great, man. Like I got recognized quite a few times. Like one time I was just walking through Times Square, or walking back to Times Square, and I got stopped by this dude in the middle of the street. The guy's like, Adam, I love your videos, thank you. We talked for a second, his name was Eric, really good guy. And I was just coming from the book off in New York. There was a book off there. It doesn't compare at all to the actual Japanese ones, unfortunately. I went to the World Trade Center and the dude at security knew who I was. He had seen my stuff too. It was really cool. I got recognized for this show. This is Beer and Board Games. I'm back there on the artwork. My character name was Fuhorbe. I was walking around and a guy goes, Fuhorbe! So it happened. It was fucking cool. It was flattering as fuck. But the other thing I got to do while I was there was I tried to meet up with people who I see once in a while. I got friends who live out there, but also I tried to arrange any kind of like fan meetup if anybody wanted to come out, and quite a few people did. Now that's what this first package comes into effect. Now this was sent to me by a guy named Rob Janos. Now that name might sound familiar. If you watch my live streams, he donates a lot. If you listen to my podcast, he is a backer, so he always gets a shout out on there. But the funny thing is, he contacted me a while back and said, hey, I got some stuff I want to send you. Is that okay? And I said, like, you don't have to do that. And he's like, no, I'm serious. I really want to do it. And so I said, all right, fine. So we went ahead and he sent it while I was in Europe. And then while I was in Europe, that's when I found out I was going to New York. Then he found out I was going to New York, and then he told me he was in New York. So as it turns out, I hung out with Rob in New York for like 2 days. We were hanging out, even though this package was sitting here, me unavailable to get to it to open it, which is sad because if I had known I was going there and he had known I was going there, we could have saved himself the $7 on shipping and just handed me the contents instead. But oops, I don't know, life's funny like that. But anyway, so yeah, thank you very much, Rob, for this package. Let's go ahead and open this up. Enough of this blabbering. I'm sure you guys are already really tired of it. Well, no, you guys are pretty smart. You guys usually enjoy that to some extent. I mean, that's why I do these long-ass live shows, right? Anyway, so let's open it up and see what Rob sent me. Well, I already know. It's not really a secret to me, but it is a secret to you, so let's do this. Inside we have bubble wrap, and we have Vectrex games, that's right. Yeah, so basically what happened with in this case was that Rob contacted me and he said, well, actually, no, he didn't. He told me the story in person. We were out getting pizza at Bleecker Street Pizza. And he told me basically like he was aiming to get a complete Vectrex collection, which is, you know, noble goal. But there's only like 22 games for that platform, but still, it's not an easy console to collect for. So he was getting his collection started, and then he picked up like an all-in-one cart. They have cartridges for the Vectrex that have every game on it. So once he had that, he kind of looked at the collection like, I don't really need these. And then he thought of me because he was like, you're the only person I know who has a Vectrex, so I'm just going to hook you up. So that's exactly what he did. So these are the games that he gave me. First of all, he included a manual for Hyper Chase. And then the games are Scramble, STARHAWK, Clean Sweep, and Star Trek, which I think was the only movie-based game on the Vectrex, although I definitely could be wrong about that. The Vectrex is not something not my most knowledged console, but still, that was pretty cool. So thank you very much to Rob for doing that, because sure shit didn't have to. And thanks again for hanging out with me in New York. That was fun. And the other thing we got here was kind of unique. This is sent to me from Japan by a guy named Switch, or at least that's the name he goes by. So I'm gonna open this up and then we'll talk about it, because you kind of just got to see this to understand fully like what the significance of this is. And hopefully I can get this open in an efficient manner, because the item is rather delicate and I really, really, really don't want to damage it. So let me just dig into it, because that's the smartest way to do it, right? Ooh, he was smart. He wrapped it up nicely. Okay. Got, wow, he really, okay, Switch really went, okay, he taped it in there, it's good. Okay, cardboard away. Now inside, what we've got is the items, and it's, wow, he put it in nice like plastic wrap and everything. Let me go ahead and take it out of there. It's so cool. I'm really excited about this, I really am. You'll see in a second why. So basically, first he included a note. It says, hi Adam, I'm sending a copy of Shenmue's Sacred Spot Guide Map, English and Japanese versions. Hope you enjoy them. Cheers, Switch. P.S. My Shenmue fan blog is at phantomriverstone.com, Twitter at phantomriverstone, phantom_river. And I plan to give away a couple of sets of maps there. So what do you know, guys? You can go over there and win one of these. So what are you possibly winning? You can win these little guidebooks. Now this may not seem that significant. You might be like, well, what the fuck? If you're a Shenmue fan, this is kind of interesting. Or even if you're not, this is just fascinating. So Shenmue, as mentioned before, is my favorite game of all time. That's why I would be so excited about the box art for a game that's not even out yet. Basically, a couple months ago in Japan, in Yokosuka specifically, which is a region of Japan south of Tokyo, I had actually been to last October. It's a section of Japan where the US Navy has a lot of presence, and it's also where this game takes place, Shenmue. And so for whatever reason, Sega, in conjunction with the city of Yokosuka, or the section of Yokosuka, decided to give away maps of the area using Shenmue as a theme. Now, obviously Shenmue takes place there, but it's kind of strange to do that on a game that came out almost like, 15, 20 years ago. All things depended. But they did it. They went ahead and produced it. And so they had both Japanese language versions and English language versions. And as a huge Shenmue fan, I really wanted to pick this up. Obviously, I'll focus more on the English one because I can actually read it. But it is surreal because I have been here now. And just to see the artwork and to see them do this, it does kind of suggest that Shenmue is back in Sega's attention. At least the Shenmue HD collections are a very real possibility. From my understanding, the English variant version is the harder one to find, which makes sense because it's the one that most people are trying to import out of there. But you apparently can go win them over there if you want to follow at Phantom_River. He's going to give away a few over there. So thank you to Switch for doing that. Very, very cool. Yeah, these are really awesome. So thank you. So yeah, thank you to Switch and thank you to Rob. And of course, thank you to Mega Cat Studios as well as the people at Retropalooza and everyone else who just watches the videos. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you all later.